So welcome to the Peoria Riverfront Museum's Art Club, and thank you for joining. I'm Everly Davis, the Educator and Student Engagement Coordinator, and I'm delighted to be hosting Jeremy Berkley for today's Art Club presentation. Questions and comments are welcomed at the end of the presentation. At that time, I'll invite you to unmute yourself, or alternatively, if you don't wish to talk, I'd invite you to type the question in the comment section and I'll ask the question for you. Allow me to better introduce our presenter. Jeremy Berkley is a graphic designer, illustrator, printmaker based out of East Peoria, Illinois. His pop culture inspired silkscreen prints have been exhibited in art galleries across the country. Most notably, his art has been featured in the premier pop culture gallery, Gallery 1988 in Los Angeles, where he is a regular creator. And without further ado, welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me today. Thanks everyone for joining. Today I'm gonna just take you through the process from beginning to the end of how I create a piece of artwork, and I'll just share my screen right now. And show you some of my artwork. So if you're not familiar with silkscreen printmaking, it's where you take a mesh screen is used to transfer artwork onto the paper. One color is printed one at a time, so you're building layers upon layers. And today I'm just gonna show you how I created a 3-color screen print. And I'll start in a program called Adobe Illustrator. And this is a pencil sketch I've already drawn up, and I placed it in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm gonna draw with this pen tool on top of this. It's just kind of tracing my own artwork. I can get through this pretty quick. Transparency down a little bit so I can see what I'm doing underneath. This program gives you really slick lines. That's why I'm doing it over the pencil, because the pencil's a little rough looking and I want it a nice slick polish look to it. And transparency down so I can see. Select those two. I'm going to knock that out so I can get that underneath. I want a good perfect circle here, so I'm gonna use this oval tool, stroke on that, rotate it around, match it up. Up the stroke just a little bit. Just gonna use this shape and copy that for this other eye, and we'll reflect it. There. Just a little bit. I'm gonna use the stroke to create the mouth here. We have completed pumpkin now. So now I'm going to select all this. I'm going to copy it, and we're going to move to another program called Adobe Photoshop. Now I've I already know my paper size for this print is going to be 6x5. So I've already set up a template. So 6 inches by 5 inches at 300 DPI. I already know the paper I'm going to use is going to be orange. So I'm going to select an orange and make that. So this is going to be our mock-up for our print. Now I've copied the pumpkin. I'm going to paste it in there. And there it is. So now we're going to go back to Illustrator. We're going to need a background. I'm going to rectangle. Also 6x5. That to be color. And do an offset path. So I'm going to take, I want copy and paste that, and this will be my extra background. And we want this to be green, so I'm going to select green again. Go to my paint bucket tool, click on that. All right, selecting the pumpkin. It's going to move this dude over a bit. And so all this is on their own layers. So this is going to be our black layer, the pumpkin. The green backgrounds will be our green layer. It'll be printed first. So we want the pumpkin to be orange, so we're going to have to get rid of all this green here. I'm just going to take this. Little magic little lasso thing. Go around here. So we're going to delete that. This little spot over here. Touch that up. A little spot up here I missed. We're gonna add a little green for this stem up here. So we're gonna be on the green layer, go back to this paint bucket. We'll fill that in. I'm going to add another orange, a darker orange on top of this. I'm going to go back to the Illustrator here, delete that. So I'm going to create another layer. This will be our orange. Draw this again. Take the transparency down a little bit so I can see what I'm doing underneath. Spots up here. That's our orange. So I'm going to select all that again, copy that, and we'll paste it underneath this black layer. And we'll line it up. Up there. It's looking pretty good. We have to knock this out because I want, like, the pumpkin's been lit from the inside with a candle. So I'm going to go back to this lasso thing and just draw around here and delete that. So it'll be a lighter orange. As you saw on the pencil drawing, I've got some shading on here, and I want to reproduce that with some brushes that are available in Photoshop. So I'm going to create another layer. This is also going to be a black layer for the shading. And so Photoshop has a variety of brushes available, all sorts of different looks. So I'm going to use a halftone for this shading. Scroll all the way down here. See what I'm looking for. I'm going to use this one right here. And we're going to select it about 30 points. I have my iPad hooked up to this, so it's going to mirror my screen. I have an iPencil, so you won't be able to see that part, but I'm going to select this orange layer here. Then I'm going to move back to this black layer and select the brush. And we're going to draw some shading on here. There we go. And my pen is pressure sensitive, so it goes on as light or as hard as I want. So I'm just kind of going over here. I'm going to press a little harder on the edge here so it gets a little darker. Just like blending with a pencil. I'm gonna add a little bit up here to go back to my orange. By doing this, I'm avoiding this highlight area by selecting this orange here. I'll go back up here, add a little more shading. All right. It's looking pretty good. And I wanted to have like a little flame flicker going on in here in the eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to add some more texture in there. So just gonna highlight that, go back to my brushes, and something a little rougher. So I'm going to use some splatter brushes and see what we can find. That looks like. There we go. Just some dusty bits floating around in there. There we go. Just to make it a little extra dark, make it pop a little more. So going back up here, I'm going to do this again for this eye over here. No. Again in the mouth. So it's coming together pretty good. I'm going to add some words to this. Copy that. Go on top of the green here. It's a little too slick, so I'm going to grind it up, add some grimy stuff to it, some texture. So I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to sample this orange color and pick another brush out. Concepts. Let's pick out. What would be fun? Smoky. There we go. You can see the texture coming in there. Now, I've already built this thing before, so I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit. So I put registration marks, and I'm going to create separations to print on some film to be able to expose onto the screen. So every layer has kind of its own screen. I've already done that, so I'm going to show you what that looks like when I save those out. So you have to create every layer and turn them black when I print them out. Let's see. And here. So when I line these all up, they'll all match up. So that's why they all have registration marks. So I'm going to show you a little video now of how I coat the screens and expose this film. So I'll show you real quick what so this is then printed out on the film. And now I'm going to show you a video. It's about 6 minutes long, so I hope the audio is good. And I'll play that right now. Today I'm going to take you the steps of setting up the screen for some printmaking. Today we're going to coat the screen with some photoable emulsion. And everything I'm going to show you today is in a darkroom setting, because this is all photosensitive, and if it was exposed to regular light, all this emulsion would be ruined. So we're going to pour the emulsion to the scoop coater. There are two sides of the blade here. There's a thicker side, which will put a thicker coat of emulsion on the screen, and there's a thinner one, which we'll be using today. So I'm just going to pour the emulsion in a good amount, about halfway full. It's going back and forth to get an even coat, so we don't want one side having too much on there. Otherwise, you're going to have it all messed up. We want everything even. So we're going to start on the outside. We're going to coat this first, and we're going to turn it around and coat the other side. We're going to do this because we want the majority of the emulsion to be on this side of the screen, because that's where we're going to put our film, and that's going to capture most of the detail. And note here, I put a little 2x4 behind there so we can have an angle, so it's easier to coat once I put it on there. All right, I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to line the blade up. I'm going to get the emulsion coming up to the screen there evenly. Once it hits that, I'm going to pull it up to the top and just wipe it up like that. Flip it around and repeat the process. And for drying, I'm going to put about 2 CDs high, and we're going to dry it bottom down, so the emulsion is going to go to the bottom of the screen, so there's more emulsion for the film, so we can capture that detail we want. This takes about 6 hours to dry to get that water out of there, and you want it basically the temperature like between 70 and 80 degrees. If the environment's like too humid, it's going to get really sticky, and you don't want that. You want a nice, clean, dry finish. Otherwise, it's going to mess your screen all up. All right, now that our emulsion's dry, we're going to place the artwork on the screen. So you're going to want to flip it so it's reversed and place it in the center, the T-square. Down, this little step shape. Ready for the exposure unit now. Great, now we're going to expose the screen onto the exposure unit. I've already cleaned this off. You want a nice clean surface with all the dust particles removed. So we're just going to flip it around on the side, face down flat. Take this foam core over here, put about 30, between 25 and 30 pounds of pressure. So we got a nice tight seal between the glass and the film, because we don't want any light refraction between the two, or else that'll mess your screen up. Okay, now we're going to turn the exposure unit on. Plug here. Now the UV lights are exposing the film onto the emulsion. Time has passed now. We're going to take it off. Take this to the power washer now. Wash that away. Now I'm going to hit this for a few seconds just to get it wet. Around to the other side. Just getting it wet right now. And that just is going to soften it up. I'm going to give it about a 30-second rest. The next time we hit it, it's just going to, the stuff is just going to fall out. Light. This all came out. We just need to dry this off now, and then it'll be ready to print. I'm just going to take some paper towels and dry it. Rub the edges for all the excess water. Just going to dab where the artwork is. So this is what it looked like when they're all exposed on the screen. And then I take one of the films and get it to on a piece of paper that's the exact size of the paper I'm going to print on, and I tape it down, and I line up all the screens to this, so everything lines up perfectly, so things aren't misregistered. And I'm going to show you one more video of me printing this. It's me mixing some ink, putting the ink down on the screen. And this is color number 1. That's color 1. And there's all the prints I printed for the first color. And color 2 going down, the orange. Usually I print with 2 hands, that's why I'm struggling a little bit. I'm holding the camera with 1 hand. And there's color 2. And here's our third and final color, the black layer. And I tape off all the registrations marks. That's why they're not printing. And there it is. All right. And there it is, all finished. So that's about it. So if you have any questions, I know that was a lot to take in 30 minutes, but I'm Just open it up.
Well, Jeremy, this is John Amdahl. Could you explain how you got interested in printing and how you got to the point where you're at?
Sure. I started in about 2008, mostly as a collector of art. I was really interested in gig posters and that sort of thing. And as I researched it more, most of those are all silkscreen prints. And I was really big fan of all the artists. So I just researched more. I was like, what are they doing? Why are they all picking silkscreen? And I really got interested in just the process of silkscreen. And I thought I could do it myself. So I bought a bunch of books and videos and kind of self-taught myself to screen print. I like having multiples and keeping the price point kind of low, because sometimes buying original art's kind of expensive. So when you're printing multiples, you can be, the world's much more affordable.
And Jeremy, this is John again. So your bio says that you are working with a gallery in Los Angeles. How'd you establish that relationship?
Well, most of my work is pop culture inspired, and that's what the basis of their whole theme is. So they had like an open submission. They were looking for new artists to come in. So I submitted my portfolio, and they really liked my work, and I've been shown with them for like almost 10 years now. So it was a good match.
Hi, Jeremy. It's Barbie Perry.
Hi, Barbie.
Thanks for being on today. I love that whole process. I think it's great to be able for folks to be able to see how much is entailed in that. This is kind of off topic of screen printing, but I noticed, well, Kirk and I did, we noticed that you did a mural out in Grand Prairie. And how did that come about? And do you see more of that in your future as well?
Sure. They also had an open call for artists, and I submitted a design, and they selected mine. It was one of my goals this year to get into more of a mural printing, or painting rather. So that was an exciting opportunity. Yes, I do have more murals on the way. So yeah, stay tuned for those. Some are kind of secret right now, but gonna be popping up over Peoria soon.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations, and thanks for sharing the beauty.
Sure.
Love your work.
Thanks for visiting with me today.
Is there anyone else that has a question? Now would be the time to ask, because I didn't see any in the comment section.
I apologize if I went too fast. It was a lot to compress into 30 minutes.
No, I think it was great, Jeremy. Do you have any of like other pieces, finished products that you could possibly show?
Sure. I can't remember if I already. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, so this is a Blues Brothers one. This is a 4-color screen print. This was also created for Gallery 1988. It was for a fake gig poster. It's like a gig that was never happened, that happened in the movie. This one's a Chucky, also created for Gallery 1988, horror theme show. This is Monster Mash. This is based on the movie Cabin in the Woods. This is for an official Joss Whedon, the director of Cabin in the Woods and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and a bunch of those. He also directed The Avengers, so it was a tribute show to him, and he went to the show and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. And here's a local Peoria inspired piece with all the Peoria icons in the background. And this is Starlight from the Amazon TV series The Boys. 5-color silkscreen print. Have some metallic inks on that too. Yeah.
So Jeremy, this is John again. Did you create each of those images in Illustrator using the same multi-layer technique like what you just demonstrated, or were they done with different techniques?
It was a combination of Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Usually I draw all the lines in Illustrator just because it's just an easier program to deal with. Plus you can size it easier. It's a vector program, so you can blow it up as big or as small as you want and it won't affect the quality. So once you get the size you want, you can take it into Photoshop where it's a little more difficult to blow up. So once you know that you're sizing in Illustrator, it's easier to drop it into Photoshop. And Photoshop's easier to add those textures and those halftones and all those other grimy techniques I like to use.
So like the Blues Brothers, you actually created all those drawings then and the shapes in Illustrator then to bring that into Photoshop then?
Yeah, the basic shapes. And I kind of use Photoshop as a finisher to add those details. I also do the separations in Photoshop too. It's a little bit easier to do the layers in Photoshop and do the output for the film.
What is the greatest number of colors that you have used to print a piece?
My largest is 18 or 19. I can't remember. That's quite intense.
Yes.
And your more typical number of colors is 3 or 4 then?
Yeah, up to 6, you know, from 1 to 6 is not my limit, but because it is a physical toll too, because if you're doing a print run of like 100, it's, yeah, you can be demanding on your body, you know, it takes a while.
Do you have associations with other galleries as well?
That's my main one, but I've shown other places in San Francisco and Spoke Art in San Francisco. But yeah, Gallery 19 is my main one. And locally too, I've shown around here in Central Illinois.
All right, last call for questions if anyone else has a question for Jeremy before we wrap up today.
And just a couple plugs. If you want to see me at the Peoria Art Guild Fine Art Fair, I'll be there September 25th and 26th. And also I'll be at PeoriaCon on October 2nd. So if you want to see any of this art in person, come by and see me.
Well, that sounds great. And then also on our webpage where we have Art Club up, we also have the links to like your Facebook, Instagram, website, anywhere that Jeremy has provided links for that we can find his wonderful artwork. I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending Art Club today, and a huge thanks again to Jeremy for taking time out to present your work with us. Be sure to tune in next month, Tuesday, October 12th at 1 o'clock, same spot here on Zoom, when we host Barbie Perry for a special presentation of their artwork.
Nice.
Thanks also to museum members and Visionary Society members for their contributed and continued support, making our virtual programming possible. And thanks everyone. Have a good afternoon and see you next time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.